Meeting's called to order. Confirm the room is accessible per the open meeting law. Roll call.
Ed Miller.
Here.
Dave Hevkin. Here. John Mitchell.
Here.
Frank Costopoulos. David Dunn. Here.
Approve the minutes from the 7/6/2017 stated meeting.
I'd like to make a motion to accept it.
I'll second it.
We have a motion to approve and a second the minutes from the 7/6/2017 meeting. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Correspondence. Chris isn't here tonight, he had another meeting, so we got a letter from Insight. It's telling us that all liquid and dry fertilizer blending, dispatch, and application will be handled by Jefferson because they're merging with Palmyra. Everything else will remain the same, and the same salespeople, and everything should be the same. It's just they're gonna run it out of Jefferson instead of Palmyra now. And we just received attached signed petition and eligibility statement from the public hearing, so that will be posted sometime this week. Does anybody else have any correspondence?
No, I
see
don't.
that, so I could take a note of it. I don't quite understand it.
The public hearing, we didn't post the resolution because it wasn't signed and sent back to us by the Bureau of Aeronautics. Now
So you got
it's signed,
Okay.
so it can be posted.
So the petition is signed by the BOA.
Yep.
Thank you.
Okay, approve the airport financial report, including the P&L. And the only thing Chris told me was that there were 4 people who hadn't paid yet, but he'd been in contact with them and it's being taken care of. So does anybody else have anything about the profit and loss? Which I lost.
That's right, I got it right here.
Oh, okay.
You didn't look at it. People haven't paid what, I guess?
There are these.
Oh,
There were 4
Property
people
leases,
that
okay.
hadn't paid yet.
okay. I didn't know whether it was T-hangers, whether
No,
it was
he just
tie-downs,
said,
what.
he just said there were 4 people.
Okay.
So, and he said he's contacted them and it's being taken care of.
All right.
And he also said he sent everybody a copy in the email.
Cool. I make a motion, we approve it. It looks, I like that. It's much more informative than
Yeah,
what we had
it's
before,
better
so I really like it.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve the financial report. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None. Motion carried. Okay, old business, airport operations update. Is grass cutting around hangars being done by owners? And
Well, Chris isn't here to really talk to much of that, so.
I think he said everybody's pretty much been taking care of it. He's going to start on the snow removal preparation probably next week. And the update on grounds maintenance, do you know anything about what's going on, Dave? Is everything good?
Hmm?
Okay, Palmyra Airport clubs, update time. Anybody from any clubs that have anything to say? Okay, review and action on airport commission's mission statement.
Well, I thought on that mission statement, we weren't actually gonna make it a voting item, or it was, that we didn't even have to. We could just adopt it on our own and not have it be anything that would be an official action. I suppose we could take action on it and make it our thing, but if numbers start changing and our goal changes, it makes it more difficult to change if we make it an action item. If we just use it among ourselves as a tool to guide us for the rest of the work that I want to do with the strategic planning, we'll all be working together on it. If the new board members come in and they decide they want to change it for some reason, it'll be easier to change than if it's
Okay.
ground in stone.
Yeah,
So that's why I thought we were last time on.
So I guess, does anybody have any trouble with what John had as a mission statement? I thought it was good.
No, I think we all,
Read it again.
we voted on that.
Palmyra Airport Commission is to recommended policy, direction, and guidance to the town council to ensure the vitality, growth, and operation of the airport for the benefit of the community, regional pilots, and educational efforts.
Sounds good.
Then
Yeah, and that way,
let it go as
in
stated.
2 years, if we need to change it because of modern times, we just change it. It's kind of like casual conversation, not a written down thing.
Not set in stone.
Right.
Update on process for town petitioning the state for crack filling and Pappy Vassy lighting. Chris hasn't heard back from him yet, but he was gonna call Lucas tomorrow and get started on it again.
I don't know who that guy is, but I don't think he's very reliable, you know?
Lucas or the other
No,
guy?
the other guy, the contractor.
Yeah, I don't know. But Chris has been busy the last 2 months. I've been busy, everybody's been busy.
Mhm.
It's just that time
Yeah.
of year and we still have time to do it. It's approved, everything's, ready to go if they wanna do it.
I guess, do we think it's gonna get done this year, or what's the?
I don't know.
Okay.
That's kind of like the hangup, the guy isn't getting, it sounds to me like he's not getting back, and he did that last year, I thought.
He
The
did that
contractor did
right
that.
from the beginning.
Yeah,
Because when we met him in the elevator, when he said he was gonna do all this stuff
Mhm.
for us, and then you never heard from him again. So we'll just have to wait and see what Chris finds out. Review match funding offer from PFC and how that lines up with items petitioned. Again, we can't do that till we know something. Update on the town memorial sign with photo. I'll have to ask Larry about it at the next board meeting, because he's in charge of that.
well, that's what we were talking about last time, that naming it the Edward,
Edward H. Calkins.
yeah. There's a lot of fields around that have an official name and then another name attached to them.
That's what we're doing.
Yeah, so I mean, I don't see where it's any problem, and it shouldn't be a problem for us to
No,
just go ahead and do it.
It's just he's getting a sign made.
Yeah.
He's in charge of it. Update on addition of property to the airport. Is there anything new, and where in the process is the town board? The attorney's writing up the resolution that we passed donating the land to the airport after Carol donated it to the town. And I don't know anything more than that.
Okay, so it's basically he's doing the write-up and it's in his hands.
Yep. New business, discuss an action on how the airport will pay its obligation for the grass seed and fertilizer bill. Okay, this is something that personally I think we've taken way out of context. I have the letter here from Dave Linton. And he had no problem paying the bills, he just wasn't sure how to do it. And he said, if this works for you, we can do the same thing in the future. That's how I would like it to stand. That was what we hammered out. We had a lot of negotiations between Chris and Chad and myself and the flying club. And that's what we came up with. And then this year it became a problem that shouldn't have been. And that's something that's, personally, I think we agreed on a handshake that they were gonna pay it up to $3,000. That was what we agreed upon. But that's my own feelings. Any other discussion?
No, I think that that's right. I think that they understood the paying up to $3,000. I think the great nuance came in whenever they batted the actual bill back and forth saying, well, I'm just gonna give you the money and you pay it, and it's like, no, it's your bill, you pay it, and that's what I heard. It wasn't not paying the 3,000, it was
Yeah,
who actually pays it, so
But
as
they,
long as that's, resolved and we don't have to listen to other individuals go back and forth with their bullheadedness, I'm okay with it.
So the flying club's just gonna pay
the
it.
Flying
like they
Club's
always do.
just gonna pay for it.
And then Dave Linton's gonna send us a copy of what he paid.
Yeah, he'll just
That's
send us a
right.
copy that it's paid. Discussion and possible action on the construction and location of new hangars to be built by the airport or private parties. We're getting close to having enough funding to build another T hangar. We have 3 people that are already on the waiting list, and I've talked to Lucas, and he sent me the cost of the last of a bunch of different hangars the last few years. And our cost for the 8-place T hangar that we put up was, he has it listed as $682,000, and we didn't pay that much. We paid $550,000. So a 6-place hangar would probably run us in the neighborhood of $450,000. And Lucas is checking that on if we can use the same design, because it's only 3 years old, and the only difference we want is gutters.
Now, can they just add on to that one, or is it a complete different hangar?
No, it'd be a complete different, I think the most you can have is 10. So if we built another one, a 6-place, we could add on to that one in the future. And that would be right in line with the other T hangar. There was room for that.
Yeah, to the south.
Yeah. And then we have a party that was possibly interested in building a hangar. And that would go across from yours. We would start a new row there.
Was your roll full now?
No, there's actually still one hole
There's one
that has
spot.
to be filled.
Wasn't there a reason why he didn't?
No, except he just wanted to build it, he just didn't start building it. That would be the next logical choice.
But somebody already wanted to build there.
Right, but, you know, he hasn't started building for a number of years, and he's
Okay.
supposed to start building it if he
So it
doesn't.
would either be that spot or start a new row.
Across, yeah.
Right across. And right now, we have $325,000 in grant money available. And I don't know, now that will come off with the crack ceiling and the Pappy Bassy, that will, that money will come off of that amount. And to build a new hangar, except for the apron, we'd have to pay 10% as a sponsor fee, not 5%, because that was federal. But we should probably start looking into it now and get our ducks in a row so that when we do have the funding, we can proceed with it. And that would be the time to hang a beacon on that hangar. Or put it on the hangar that's there now. I don't know how much is involved in putting the beacon. We didn't discuss it at the public hearing. Because that's something that we're gonna have something that shows the people that live around here it's not gonna be intrusive.
Right. Well, in the hearing, you have to have a hearing for the
And we'd have to
hangars
have a
too.
hearing for the hangars too.
Yeah.
So what do you think would be a tentative start date for that 6th place hangar?
I guess it's gonna come down to cost. I'm thinking possibly next September, August or September, because we'll get another $150,000 in July.
And that's after paying off all of our obligations to the other airports for the original.
That should be taken care of. That was included in the number that he sent me, that Lucas sent me.
Also, they did finally take it out, and that number.
They took the number out. I don't know if they credited him with it, but they took it out.
Okay, as long as they took it out of us,
Yeah.
that's all we're worried about.
So, so basically, right now, we're looking at, we have 360,000 available with our sponsor fee. The other thing I checked with the attorney, and I brought our Palmyra Airport. I got too much junk here. Oh, we do have this also. Airport Operations and Land Use Seminar. So
Oh,
just pass it
I don't
on.
want that.
Everybody that's interested.
Did you get an agenda on that yet? By chance?
Did you get an agenda for something for the airport land use?
I'll take a look at that one. Because I get one of those 2 days off to look to it.
It's not on there?
I didn't see that, I will look at it. Thanks, Dave.
Our airport operation ordinance. In section 3, letter A, the commission shall have jurisdiction for the construction, improvement, equipment, maintenance, and operation of the airport. I talked to Hal Davis about it, about how much power the commission has, and it's up to the town board how much power the commission has. So Hal said it's runs the gamut from having complete control over the airport to basically you gotta do what the town board tells you. And that makes the commission kind of useless.
Yes, it does.
Not really,
But
because
also what he told me was because the Flying Club has a 50-year lease, that 50-year lease ties the airport up for 50 years. Anybody that tries to disband the commission or whatever, for whatever purpose, still has to honor that lease, and that has monetary value. So the commission, in effect, still controls the airport. Now, I'm not saying what a new board would do, you never know. But as far as this board is concerned, what the commission wants to do is what the town wants to do. And when we have a public hearing for this hangar, the commission should hold the public hearing. And we could do it at the same meeting like we did the last time. The town would hold a meeting afterwards for the vote from the electorate to spend the money. And he's also looking into if there is a way that an airport commission can just be disbanded. Or if it, you know, because there are terms involved, if you'd have to go till the end of the terms of the people on it. I don't know. He's checking into it. Okay, update on hang gliding investigation for use at 88 Charlie. I don't know what what this is about, so.
It was just if there was any questions, because, you know, we talked about it, they had talked about it, and so this is some of the investigation we did. Since Chris isn't here, there's not much for me to share with what I know, and can't really glean what he found out, because I know he was checking into it also, so.
What's the discussion about on this thing?
As far as
Same lighting.
what it would take to make it to where it's an operational entity in our airport also, basically.
They do it at Whitewater,
That's a private airport,
so
it's different.
what's different about it?
A
They don't have
lot,
to follow FAA rules?
right? Because it's
They
not
don't.
federally obligated, so it has a totally different set of standards they're held to. So,
Are you familiar with Humphreys in 2010?
Why is it-
don't know what you're talking about.
There's quite a bit of this going on for a lot of years with hang gliding, charging and not charging and stuff.
Yeah, I wasn't even going to the charging and not charging stuff, but I was just talking about how to integrate it safely to where they don't get hurt, we don't get hurt, nobody gets hurt, and I don't get sued or you get sued
And
if
the
somebody
FAA
gets
didn't have
killed.
any guidelines for that?
Yeah, some. They have to meet some of the FARs and some of that kind of stuff. I didn't dig in as deep as I would like to because I ran out of time, but
And then you're talking about
Dan gave me some places that
the FARs,
do
are
right
talking
now,
about
so,
what the hang gliders have or the tug?
yes.
Because what do the hang gliders have to follow that would be different than anything else?
I
It's
don't-
already in the FAR's 103 that they have to yield to all their traffic in the air. Unless it's a motorized ultralight, then the motorized ultralight has to yield to the hang glider. And it's spelled wrong, it's H-A-N-G, not H-A-N-G. So the FAA already has pretty clear cut, where they can fly, where they can't fly, what they can do and can't do.
There's a lot, if you look at these, there's
I've
quite
read
a
those.
few, yeah.
Yeah.
There's quite a few stipulations, and to protect us, the airport needs to put together a minimum standard. The commission would need to put together a minimum standard operating for the airport. We should have that regardless. That's what the guy at Oklahoma said.
Mhm.
Regardless, we should have something like that to protect us, so that as a commission, if somebody is
So
following
what
the
you're
FARs.
What you're telling me right now, that if I hop on a hang glider and go fly and land at another publicly owned airport, that before I land there, I have to have permission to land there? If it's
No.
in,
No,
okay. So then why do we need anything different here to allow them to land here?
it's not necessarily to allow them to land here, but to set up the operation of having general aviation along with hang gliding together at the airport.
Is that any different than if it's a glider where you need a,
Yes,
what's the
just like
difference?
just like it's different for parachute operations. You know, if you have parachute operations there, can they just come and start jumping at your airport? Technically, yes. But the airport, that is the commission or whoever's operating the airport, has to set up some standard to keep it from happening, because keep accidents from happening, to make sure that it shows up in the chart that that's actually going on at that place,
Right.
to make sure that there's specified areas and procedures for both parties, so that you try to do it safely so that they don't come together. There's nothing keeping a individual from coming and jumping a parachute and jumping in the middle of Palmyra. That's true. But if you're gonna do it, if you're gonna base here and jump, then we need to put something together so that we're protected, that, you know, that it's set up right. So that's why we were looking into it, to say, okay, how do we do this and how do we do it safely?
Probably should talk to someone that's been doing it though and see.
Well, that's why I said, Danny, give me a couple places that do it at a public airport, because most of them are at private airports. I couldn't, you know, until the ones he gave me, everything I was finding was at private airports. But he gave me a couple people that do it at a public airport, so I haven't,
And the FAA doesn't have that spelled out anywhere though. So these publicly owned airports are making up their own policy and rules that you think are gonna be better than what the guy in Whitewater is doing in our basic locale.
it's gonna be different only because a private airport, you don't have, you can just say, hey, we're open, you can do whatever. And they can get by with it.
How does liabilities come into?
Well,
that?
see, that's the thing, I don't know, from a private airport, maybe that guy just assumes the liability, or maybe he sets it up in a totally separate trust to where he doesn't own it anymore. I don't know. I mean,
Okay,
maybe Dan could add to that. I don't
what
know.
kind of liability do we have? Would you say you take off with your airplane, you have your own personal insurance on that, correct?
Mhm.
What liabilities does the airport have when you take off?
None, other than making sure that we have it set up to the standards that the FAA has.
Right.
And that we have,
So
that we have a
wouldn't-
set of standards that
Wouldn't
call
they
it.
fall under the same thing, that they would have to have their own liability insurance to cover those?
Yes, but,
Sort of
but
issues?
I'm going back to the fact like, okay, for instance, if we know there's deer on this runway every night, there's nothing in the FARs that says you have to do anything because there's deer out there. But if a plane comes in and hits them deer, you're gonna be liable for it.
Okay,
Because you did it through neglect. You neglected to make sure that that was safe. I got into that in Ohio and I don't wanna do it again.
okay, well, that makes
This
sense.
guy with the 150 plowed into, tore the tail off of it, and it got into a big pissing match. So, that's the only reason I'm like,
So what
hey, we
I'm
need to
getting
do it
at though
right.
is, we probably need to talk to Danny because he's in our area, he's been doing it there for 7 years.
I have been, John.
That airport's been there for, I forgot when I first came up to 92 or something like that. And then let them pave the path and be a lot quicker than trying to dream up this stuff on our own.
And that's the direction it will head once we actually start to put a paper together. Right now, I'm just saying, what does the federal government say? What does Oklahoma say? What is the district airport guy in Chicago, what's he saying? And yes, I've been talking to Dan. Have I not?
What's the status? Are they closed now? Or
Unknown.
unknown yet?
Still
Okay.
Yeah, the longer it goes,
The worse it looks, or the better it looks?
But personally, if I had a choice, I'd much rather be based here or have some permanence of facility of future than to be over there and operate as we have with no lease, no agreement, month-to-month payments, and the waiting for the death of the owner. And so anyway, the owner's passed away now, but it's, since then, it's been a slow, painful experience, waiting for the heirs to do something. And regardless of that, even though we kind of run that place, we have to abide by all the FARs, all the things that you're concerned about. You know, those don't change just because we're on private property. But the amount of work that we do over there, and maintenance and upkeep, and the amounts we pay for hangar rents and that sort of thing, we'd save a ton moving over here, just monetarily speaking. And we're used to mowing all the grass over there, for example, doing all the trimming, planting all the flowers, doing all the maintenance and upkeep. I put the well in myself, and so we have some water for doing stuff. And to have all those responsibilities relieved, or to exercise those to help out over here, would be like another dream come true. You know, it's.
So you guys actually pay to use the airport over there?
Mhm.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
And the other thing, we cannot legally stop them from coming
Oh,
here.
no, we don't want to.
Because
We don't want to do
we're a
that.
federally obligated airport,
Right.
and anything to do with aviation, we have to be responsible for, responsive to.
Yes,
So,
definitely.
so we're gonna have to sit down with you at the time whenever,
Well, you know, we could always be proactive and get the sitting down done with. Because, you know, there's days, the worst days of flying over there, because of the runway constrictions that we're operating under, are winds from the east, winds from the west. What a match made in heaven, you know, having, you know, even partial use, not moving the whole club here, but just having come over here on east and west wind days and flying here when we're not having to worry about crosswind takeoffs or, you know, doing something really, some strange maneuvers that we do over
could I
there.
get your phone number before you leave tonight?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Did you guys get to a chance to look at the FARs that were put on our minutes?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's why I put them on there, because that's what I started with.
Because, just in short, it looks like they're probably doing that already. As far as the operation of the ultralights and, you know, they're towing them up properly and stuff. You have a commercial ticket for towing those up?
I do not, Mark does here,
Oh, okay.
but the consensus in our community is that we don't need one.
Mhm.
And I've been in communication with the United States Hang Gliding and Paragliding Association just yesterday, and they confirmed that as a matter of course.
Yeah, here it was just saying a private certificate. Yeah,
I've got a private with, you know, I have my third class medical, I have to do that
Yeah.
because what I do, but, you know, I can't fly like most people can now without the third class medical. But, you know, I've got my logbook entries and everything else, and I've been doing it for 7 years. I was talking to some guy, I've got probably, well, in excess of 1,200 hours towing hang gliders.
I guess I should call the guy out of Oklahoma and tell him he's wrong, right?
Yeah.
You can,
I will.
I mean, you know.
I call him and tell him he's wrong, and that,
Every part
give him
of-
your name and number, tell him he's wrong. Seriously, so that he can talk to you if he's got questions.
I'd be glad to have that conversation, but, you know, all my research.
I just didn't want to open a can for you, so that's why I didn't say anything. I just like, hypothetically, that's the way I talked to him about it, but I can't.
Well, from what I remember, it was 2010. Humphreys settled that where private pilot can charge for towing up hang gliders. I don't know about regular gliders.
When was that? What's the, what are you referring to?
Umphreys, I think, Humphreys or Humphreys. And I thought it was settled at that time, and it started way back in 1997, I think, a lot of that, 97, 92? Some of those battles, whether they could charge or not, I can't remember.
And I'm not,
Oh, I was actually doing it before you, that's right, because you started here in 2007?
2011.
That's fine with me if you charge, I don't care. I just didn't want to get you in trouble, and so when I was asking, the guy was listing down what you needed to have, you know, and saying, well, you have to have this approved, and you have to have that approved, and, you know, the strength of the cord has to be 80% or whatever. He was rattling it all off, and one of them was a commercial ticket. And that's when I was like, oh, okay, so he has to have a commercial? Really? I mean, he's flying he's not hauling people, it's just a little bitty thing, and he's like, I don't care, he's got to have a commercial. Like, okay. But whenever you want to start having the talk, we can start that talk earlier rather than later. I just think we need to, I mean, because like, okay, you tow somebody up and they cut loose. Where do they go? Do they just stay in the area here? And when they come down, where do they come down and how do they come down? If the wind's coming out of the north, are they gonna land crossways on our runway? And they don't have handrails, so, you know,
What?
they don't have radios, right?
Right.
Yeah, so, you know, and you already come down and grab somebody else, so all your calls, because you do make calls, right?
I do not.
You don't even have a radio.
But
Okay.
having said that, that is one of the things we're looking into if we move here. There's nobody that wants to not get hit more than me.
Well, I get that. So that's why I assumed you had a handheld, to be honest with you. But anyways, so your calls would be good for where you're at, but if you've already dropped off 4 or 5 people and they're still floating around up there, you know, unlike parachutists, it's kind of easy because they, you know, I should say easy, relatively easy, they have a area that they come down in, and unlike regular gliders, they have transponders where you can pick them up on ADSB, and most of them have radios and everything. Where the hang glider guys, from what I was seeing when you guys were doing your thing out here, they're freewheeling it just like motorcycle riders. They don't have much of anything. So I guess putting a procedure together as far as where they're gonna stay, because, I mean, let's face it, we all know where's the most dangerous place to have collisions. In the traffic pattern close to an airport. So, you know, we would have to, I would think we would want to put together some stipulation that when they get to a certain altitude, they're within so close to the airport that they do X, Y, and Z, and then we make sure we post and note them, and we put it on the airport, well, it used to be called Airport Facilities Director, but it's not that anymore, I can't even remember the name. Airport Information, whatever they call it now. Put something in there, you know, kind of like the other ones where they have, okay, glider activity, or, you know, and then maybe we even change the runway pattern. Maybe we do the general aviation all.
Well, that's getting a lot of things that I'm sure already worked out, because when I was flying Bering and Springs, hang gliders did left-hand pattern, airplanes did right-hand pattern because it was a noise abatement area. If it wasn't noise abatement, it would have been the opposite. And we came in and landed like it was parallel runways, except the hang glider stayed on the grass that was off the runway. We
I
didn't
asked
actually
about
land on
that,
the
that's a
runway.
no-no, we cannot endorse that.
The hang gliders?
We cannot endorse
Okay.
that.
The parallel runway.
We
Well,
can't
it's not
endorse.
parallel runway,
No.
but that's where we came in though.
But they, yeah, and we
You know.
cannot write that up as endorsing if they land on the grass anywhere other than the runway. I was told that too by the guy in Chicago. Because that's not an airport operations system, or surface. So, but it sounds like maybe you should work with him and put the paper together. It sounds like you got a lot
Yeah,
more
well,
knowledge
that's
than
why
I
we
do.
need to talk to Danny the most, because
Maybe you talk to Danny.
I can talk to him.
Thank you. I nominate you to talk to him and work it out, because that would be good. Because that'd be good, because it sounds like you know a lot more about it. I just know what little bit I've read and talked to people about, trying to figure out how to do it safely. Because I know we can't just say, well, if we're just gonna say, come on, bring it over, boys, whatever, you're allowed to do it, I'm resigning from the commission, because I don't wanna go through that again. I already did it once.
Yeah. But
I don't wanna go through it again.
I want to ask you this though. When a guy's parked out in the runway, lands, parks in the middle of the runway for a few minutes, then decides to take off in the middle of the runway, is that in violation of anything?
I wouldn't think so.
And
I don't know any, I can't think of any rule that says you can't do that.
How about the people that decide to pull out onto an active runway when you're trying to launch and they're back taxiing at that end over there? So here you are, you're launching, and you got a guy that pulls out of the runway.
Now that, yes, because that's an incursion. You got two
Yeah.
aircraft on the same active strip. So
Right.
yes, that's a runway incursion.
And so how do we enforce that kind of stuff?
We're not the cops.
Okay, so,
Well, but they have to be known. I mean, even as a pilot, it's our responsibility to correct another pilot, I think. I've never had any problem doing that.
Well, I got a couple problems like that out here.
But,
And I'm
but you
just
just
saying
have
that,
to tell a guy that's an incursion, we can't have that. And I would think that would be rare and almost by accident, I would think. Because even if another pilot did that, I mean, he's being a fool.
yeah, I know.
I mean-
And I have been flying that, you know, my total time is what, how many years? 6 years maybe? And I've had several of these things happen to me out here, and I'm thinking if it's very rare, it can't, why am I the lucky guy that's getting all the rare stuff done?
Well, does it seem to be the same aircraft doing
No,
it?
different. One was a Cub with no radio, and the other one was, I don't know what it was.
You're supposed to clear the active runway after you land, you don't sit.
Yeah, he sat there, then he took off right from the middle of the field.
That's
That's why I was on
FAR.
final
Sure,
coming
I
in.
can't quote what it is, but you're supposed to get off the active
Yeah.
runway.
But we don't enforce any of that stuff, so I'm saying with the hang
How do you
gliders.
enforce it?
That's what I was asking about the hang gliders, how do you enforce any of their practices?
I'm not worried about enforcing it.
Yeah.
I'm worried about making sure that we have a process so that if something happens and they come and say, why didn't you, put together a process to where this wouldn't happen, we at least made an attempt. It doesn't have to be, okay, we fixed it and we have a smooth process and everything's right. You just have to make a reasonable attempt to resolve a safety situation. And ignorance is not, you
Yeah.
can't plead ignorance, say, well, I didn't know. Well, yeah, you did because, how many deer have been hit? Well, this is the 5th one in the last 2 years.
Mhm.
That was the case.
Well, I'll work with Danny on protocol and proposal we can put together to present to the board, then see if they like it or not, and how it's gonna work.
Is that something you could have in place by, ready for the January meeting?
Yeah,
My suggestion for that situation, or any illegal activity, would be to talk to the guy as a pilot. And if he does get smart,
Deck 'em?
no,
There you go.
just say, okay,
Listen to me.
you and I can settle it here, or we can talk to the FAA about it. It'll probably be settled right there. I mean, because somebody doing that, they should know they're doing something stupid. They're just being inconsiderate of somebody else landing or taking off. So, I learned to fly out of a place where they didn't take any crap, McCarran International. And there were the rules to follow, and we followed them.
Okay, set future meeting. The 15th of January, the 1st is a Monday, so the 8th is our regular town board meeting here.
As for myself, I'll be out of town.
Okay.
I mean, it doesn't mean that you can't have it, I'm just,
No, I know, but I'd rather have everybody here. We're not held a certain day.
because I'm leaving the 9th and I'll be gone 2 weeks in Florida.
No, I hate. So you're not coming back till the 23rd-ish?
Ish, yeah. Depends on how the bike riding is.
We'll do it
There's a lot of that hang gliding.
Chris has meetings on
There's
Thursdays,
77 pages.
on the first Thursday. I don't know about the second. Yeah, he's gonna be gone. What about the 29th?
That's fine.
What does the 29th look like to you?
Fine.
Yeah.
Frank? Good. January 29th.
What's that, Monday or?
It's a Monday.
That's okay.
Because everybody's got something on certain days, so.
No, I always figured these are on Monday, and this one was Thursday, but usually I know do the other
Well,
day.
that was because we couldn't get in any other time.
Yeah,
So,
I know that happens every now and then, so.
okay, Rick?
Yeah, I'm just gonna start this off with a little quiz here. Now, I know John and Dave are pilots. Frank used to be a pilot. I don't, Ed, have you ever been a pilot?
Nope.
Okay, well, this is directed to the other four. Okay, little quiz. In your FAA training, what did they say you should do with strobe lights when you fly in the vicinity of clouds or fog?
Turn long.
And why is that?
What's that blind you?
Night blindness.
Because the water vapor refracts that light, and it can be actually quite a disturbing, repeated occurrence to see this flashing light. Well, I think that pretty well answers your questions that Ed mentioned earlier about will that rotating beacon be offensive to the community? Because that light is going to be refracting in fog for probably a quarter-mile radius from here. So that means from all the way from Frank's house to Olson's farm is going to be getting annoyed anytime it's foggy and having that rotating beacon being refracted through the fog. And think about what you're spending taxpayer